The following video is brought to you by Amino. Download the new Horror Amino app free for iOS and Android today to join a mobile community for horror fans. Talk about gory flicks, check out creepy pics, engage in macabre contests, and make some scary friends to discuss your gruesome passions with. Horror Amino.
Greetings! I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and this time around, your regularly prescribed video content will be delivered in list form. We always remember the horror that has frightened us in films, but let's not forget the towns that spawn them. Here's my list of the top 10 towns in horror films. Now it's time to enter the city limits of terror.
Number 10. Warren Valley, Ohio from Trick or Treat.
A pretty normal town most of the time that becomes a pretty kick-ass looking party on Halloween. Warren Valley has a bit of a dark backstory going for it, with a school bus full of, different kids perishing in a rock quarry. Only one resident of Warren Valley, off the top of my head, can be considered certifiably strange. The principal, who has a certain, respect for Halloween. A lot of weirdos also just love to visit Warren Valley during the season. Why not? They fit right in on this kind of night.
Number 9. Woodsboro, California from the Scream franchise.
Maureen Prescott apparently screwed a lot of guys, but in the end, she screwed her town, Woodsboro. Prescott's infidelity spawned a serial killer in a ghost mask that's a bit of a horror movie nerd, and when the teens of Woodsboro aren't being gossipy, they're also being really friggin' meta. Like seriously, the meta just doesn't stop. That and the revelations of all the people that Maureen slept with. Yeah, the killer is kind of the least interesting thing about Woodsboro.
Number 8. Antonio Bay, California from The Fog.
The Fog isn't a great horror flick, but the town it takes place in and the characters that live in it are what really make the movie. Antonio Bay is another one of those towns with a dark secret, but what could that be? Well, the founders of the town were total dicks. You see, the founders sank a ship that was carrying some really wealthy lepers. The founders robbed the vessel of all of its treasure, and things were quiet for 100 years. Antonio Bay really is a beautiful spot on the map, and it's got Adrienne Barbeau hosting a pretty chill local radio show. 100 years after the founders' crimes, however, a strange fog spreads over the town, which brings with it murderous ghosts, and we really get to know the people living in Antonio Bay.
Number 7. Jerusalem's Lot, Maine from Salem's Lot.
Jerusalem's Lot becomes home to vampires, but before all that unpleasantness befalls the place, it had kind of a weird H.P. Lovecraft thing going on involving a cult and a, worm. Okay, so it was a weird town, and weird towns, of course, attract weirdos like vampires. Taking up residence in a haunted house, Kurt Barlow is probably one of the freakiest-looking vampires around, much more based on Nosferatu than he was in the book. Barlow terrorizes Salem's Lot and spreads his vampiric condition around town like the clap. Barlow's legacy in King's stories continues on as Jerusalem's Lot never quite rid itself of the vampires, and it becomes abandoned by anyone without pointy teeth.
Number 6. Santa Mira, California from Halloween 3.
I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. This town is pretty damn weird. It's the home of the Silver Shamrock Factory, which makes cute little novelties like Halloween masks and the like, but this town holds a dark secret. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. First off, the town has a strict curfew. Okay, probably takes care of delinquency, but the townspeople seem scared of something. Maybe it's the fact that they don't have jobs in the factory, or maybe it's the weird men in suits who murder hobos in the night. That last thing is pretty scary. Okay, Silver Shamrock is pretty sketchy. Well, the mask that the company manufactures opens a hole into another world that bugs and snakes come out of. Okay, so don't buy a Silver Shamrock mask, and don't watch the big giveaway.
Number 5. Derry, Maine from It.
Okay, it's a town where a killer shape-shifting clown lives. To make things worse, that clown's true form is a spider. Two very scary things combined. The clown calls himself Pennywise, but what he truly is a bit complicated and maybe confusing. The TV movie is based on a 1,000-plus page Stephen King book, after all. Give me a break if I get some stuff wrong here. The town of Derry unfortunately set up shop where the clown was bombing around. Pennywise has an influence over Derry that the adults are ignorant of. The folks of Derry are pretty much hypnotized, and all the news of murders and disappearances don't get out and are forgotten. A lot of bad stuff happens in Derry, if you're aware of the clown or not, but the involvement of a clown at all makes Derry a place you don't want to grow up in.
Number 4. Burkittsville, Maryland, from the Blair Witch franchise.
The Blair Witch Project is a controversial found-footage horror flick. You either like it, or you really friggin' hate it. But in the film's defense, it crafted a really good, creepy backstory for its real but heavily fictionalized town, Burkittsville, formerly Blair. The movie itself doesn't go into Burkittsville's mythology much. The town's tale is fleshed out in a couple of mockumentaries made to promote the movie. Burkittsville began as Blair, but then a woman moved in who may or may not have been a witch, but a few bloody kids later, and this supposed witch was banished into the wilderness during a sucky winter. Of course, this is never the end. Kids kept dying, and the story even involves a murderous hermit. That is always pretty scary. Burkittsville's history culminates in a few college students going missing in the Black Hills. Yeah, there's a place called the Black Hills, but that's not it. There's also a landmark called Coffin Rock. Burkittsville is a cool friggin' town.
Number 3, Crystal Lake, New Jersey, from the Friday the 13th franchise.
Crystal Lake was just a little town with a camp until a woman named Pamela Voorhees moved in with her special boy, Jason. Jason drowned at the camp, maybe. It doesn't matter. Jason's mother actually dies, definitely, and Jason returns as a masked man with an axe to grind. There's nothing particularly notable about the town of Crystal Lake itself. There are bikers, I guess. The thing about Crystal Lake that makes it special is the insane amount of people that have died there. Like, between Pam, Roy, and Jay, more people have probably died in Crystal Lake than there have been permanent residents in this town. The people of Crystal Lake are really negligent.
Number 2, Springwood, Ohio, from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Freddy's hometown. Enough said, but I'll say some more. Freddy was born in Springwood, the bastard son of 100 maniacs, so yeah, not the best childhood. Besides the healthily populated mental institution, Springwood was a pretty normal small town before Freddy was brought up pretty damn poorly. Fred would eventually kill some kids. Allegedly, though, because he got out. On a technicality, though. Still, the parents were out for Freddy's blood, so it makes you wonder how unstable Springwood must have been. So, Freddy was burned, but he came back as a dream killer, and that kind of shit really throws things out of whack. So out of whack, in fact, that Springwood was rid of all of its kids at one point. Freddy gets results.
Number 1, Haddonfield, Illinois, from the Halloween franchise.
Michael Myers stabbed his sister, but that was just a little thing, because Michael was small. Haddonfield went back to normal after Mike got put away. That's how it always goes. Michael Myers breaks out, and Haddonfield suffers for a Halloween night, but the town always bounces back. Michael has killed a lot of young Haddonfieldians, but the living residents probably just want to ignore that. Haddonfield is a nice town, after all. There's no way it would be the home of a murderer. It's like Mike has a bad memory in an otherwise happy life. You want to forget about that one bad day and focus on all the good stuff going for you. But that day just sticks out and you keep dwelling on it, repeating it. Murder is a bummer is what I'm saying. Man, every place on this list was a small town. Maybe you would have done this list differently. Well, I want to hear from you. Download the free Horror Amino app and vote on my top 10 towns of horror poll to decide by popular demand which town is the scariest of them all. While you're in the app, why not get involved with the community? There's a little something for everyone in the Amino Horror app, all available at the touch of a screen. Isn't technology wonderful?
Horror Amino is available now on iOS and Android. Whatever side of horror you're interested in, this app has got you covered. You f***ing weirdos.